Hello, everyone. Hello, Phil.
Hello.
Thank you very much for welcoming me to answer my questions today. So we talk about speed reading and about mind mapping, and I'm really excited because you're twice world champion of mind mapping. So you're the champion of mind mapping, but you're also the chief, the big boss of the arbiters for the worldwide championships. So for the world championship, but also for the national championships. So you know everything about how to win a competition. And what is really exciting is that we host the next championship in France, the 4th of October. So I'm looking forward to know more about how you work in that area. But before going through the speed reading and the mind mapping techniques and so on, I would love to know more about your journey and also who are you today? So so can you present you to the people who don't know you yet?
First of all, I'd like to say that I will be in Paris for the championships. So I'm really looking forward to coming and working with you for the Paris, the French national championships.
Yes.
So I'll definitely be there for that. A bit about myself. My name is Phil Chambers. As you said, I'm the chief arbiter of the World Memory Sports Council. Also, my official title is the president of GOMSA, the Guild of Mind Sports Arbiters. So I oversee the standards and the rules for mind sports, not just memory, but for mind mapping and speed reading as well around the world. So,
and through this organization, if I recall well, you also train the the official to train other arbiters, if I'm correct.
That's right. I conduct arbiter training in the 3 disciplines as well, so that people are qualified to invigilate at events, their own events around the world. And of course, my presence is part of one of the conditions for world rankings. So, for a tournament to be world ranked, it must have a senior GOMSA official present.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to work with you again in Paris, because you were here also in 2018 with Tony Buzan when he was there.
Yes.
For the French mind mapping championship in 2018. And yes, so how did you, talking about Tony Buzan, how did you meet him? And was he the inspiration to bring you into mind mapping? So what is the story behind this?
Partly, yes. I'm a member of Mensa, the High IQ Society, and Tony Buzan used to write occasionally for the Mensa Journal. So that's kind of how I found out about him, and also saw some of his books, and never really took much attention to Tony. He also had his TV show I saw occasionally, but never really had any particular interest. And then a school teacher, a physics teacher at school, talked about mind mapping as a way of revising for my GCSE exams. And I did a bit. I tried it out, and I didn't really use all the laws. I didn't understand all the laws, but I still did reasonably good mind maps. Well, mediocre mind maps, and did well in the exams anyway. And then at university, met someone called James Lee. And James Lee's dad, Brian Lee, used to be Tony Buzan's financial advisor. So James knew Tony through his dad, and James set up the Durham University Use Your Head Society. So I joined that, and one of the first events they held was Tony coming to speak at the university to any members of the society who wanted to come and attend. So I went and sat in on Tony's lecture, which was incredible and inspiring, as Tony always is. And then that's how I met Tony the first time round. Got involved in the society a bit more, ended up as the speaker secretary for the society in my final year at university. So invited loads of other interesting people, like Dominic O'Brien came and spoke to other people. And what happened was, after having met Tony, just happened that where I lived was down not far from London, and they were holding the World Memory Championships in London in the summertime, when I was home from university. So I went in and attended that as a spectator, and that's really how I got into the memory world as well, through meeting the people there. Met Dominic, met Van der North, who used to run the Buzan centres, and that was my introductory first insights into memory sports.
And since then, you never left.
Yes, exactly. Got involved in scoring because I worked in IT. I was one of the first people to introduce, or the first person to introduce computerized scoring. So it used to be done the first years with pen and paper and calculators. So I then created a spreadsheet, and we did it through electronic scoring for the calculator, the marks, which we did on I think my second time I was there, when I was there involved in the some of the organisation, and eventually progressed into being chief arbiter. But it was over a number of years. It was a progression.
Okay, and so how is it like to work with Tony? Because I tasted it a little bit when he was in Paris for a week, but I really wonder for the people who didn't know him well, how was it like to work with Tony, and especially in this era, which is quite when you need to create a ranking, and I guess it's quite structured. So how was it like?
Yeah, Tony was incredible. One of the things was that he was so diverse in the things he could do, or things he had done. You know, creativity, mind mapping, creating competitions, best-selling author. So multiple different things that Tony had achieved, and he was incredibly good at motivating people to do things. His brother said that how charismatic Tony was. He said even when he was 5 years old, he would tell people to do things, they would do it. Yes, he had this fantastic charisma about it, and therefore was really inspiring to work with. So that was I think the main thing was Tony's inspiration. And then you could have, I had many dinners with Tony, socialising with him, as well as on the professional basis. I'd often have, say, a social connection with Tony, which was also always interesting. To some remarkable places I would never have otherwise been. Some restaurants and some really fascinating places. So that was also a really great thing to be working with Tony and meeting people in around the world of Tony Buzan, but also the social side.
Yes, I can imagine. And as we were saying with Elaine in a previous interview, because you worked together also.
Yes.
So you were there in 2018 in France for the championship, and you will come back also together in France for 2019. And yes, she said also, inspiring, and it was like both sides are all really professional, but also really creative. So there was also the rationality, but also the emotion. It was like a really complete experience. And
I think that's expressed by Tony's poetry. Not many people know that he was not only a serious writer, but a writer of poetry. And that was the emotional side. That was the creative side. And he was really one of his passions was writing poetry. So that's the other side of his intellect.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And so you talked a lot about how you contributed to build the competition in the international scale, but you also experienced the competition as a competitor.
Yes.
And you won twice for the mind mapping championship. So how did you win? Because when I interviewed Elaine, she said that once you won because she was not there, but I would like to hear your side of your story. And yes, how did you win?
Well, that was interesting that in the year 2000, Elaine won previously. I'd competed with her and got silvers and bronzes. And she says that in 2000 I won because she wasn't there. She was giving birth to her son, James. But certainly because Tony was the judge that year, judged the mind maps, and he said that my mind maps were creditable on any level. So it's not just because they were best in the room at that time. He said they were still world-class mind maps. So I think I can justify myself by saying it wasn't just because Elaine wasn't there that I won. But so I won in 2000 again in 2004. And the way it was marked then was before we had the scheme. We now got the marking scheme. We created Paris last year, now known as the Paris marking scheme. When it originated, it was just done by ranking the mind maps, which is the best mind map, second best mind map, third best mind map, on a very general basis. It wasn't scored by particular points. It was just the people present who judged them and agreed amongst themselves which were the best. So the way you win is if you get, of course, 2 first and the second. That's unsurmountable. Nobody can pass 2 first and second. So that's how I won. was by creating 3 mind maps. You do one on exactly the same as we do now, one on a lecture, one on a piece of text, and one on a freestyle where you choose your own topic. Spend a whole day doing it. It's wonderful because you never usually have the opportunity to indulge in a whole day's mind mapping. So it's really nice to give yourself permission to do that. And then they say you hand them at the end of the day and they're then ranked. And that's how you get the allocation of medals.
And it's also a treat for the brain, and this day dedicated for the mind map, because you can allow yourself to be creative, to use colors, and which brings us back in a way in our childhood. And I think that was part of the intention of Tony when he created mind mapping. And so I understand what you say when you said, yeah, it was an incredible day. And also with all the atmosphere with all the other competitors, it doesn't feel like a competition.
That's right. As Elaine often says, that you have the World Memory Championships, which is really serious and really focused, and you've even criticised for breathing too loudly or clicking your pen. It's got to be total focus. Whereas mind mapping is much more relaxed. You can get up, you can move around. Elaine likes to mind map on the floor because she likes to move about. She's a kinesthetic learner. So you share each other's pens. You can even have a little bit of conversation. Obviously not to disturb others, but a little bit of conversation can go on. So it's a much more relaxed, friendly competition because you're being creative, because you're letting your mind wander more than you would if you're focused on, say, on something that is so precise as memory. So mind mapping is a much more friendly atmosphere.
So we talked a lot about mind mapping, but you also work in speed reading. And so how did you get into speed reading?
And that was really following on from meeting Tony and Vanda and so on at the championships. I then did the Buzan licensed instructor course. That was with Vanda down in the south of England. And at the time, we were known as RTIs, Radiant Thinking Instructors. And that was a series of each of the different Tony Buzan disciplines you qualified in. So one was speed reading, one was mind mapping. They did a module on speaking and a module on Tony's success formula. And memory. So you had the full suite of the Buzan products you licensed in. And that's really when I first experienced speed reading. It was from the instructor point of view of learning as an instructor, and then of course practice the technique myself. End up writing about it. I've written a book on speed reading. So it's progressed beyond that.
Yes, because you're also a writer.
Yes. Written a number of books.
So reading, writing, mind mapping. So very stimulating activities for the brain.
And they go together. When I write, I mind map first. So you mind map the book, plan it out with a mind map, and then you start writing. So all of your thinking is done first. So the techniques that you learn to be used as techniques are actually the things that then help you to do the other things.
Yeah, totally agree. I do exactly the same before writing a book. I do the mind map so that I can have a map of what I'm gonna write and in which sequence. So it's really useful, and it really feels like also a training. I feel like my brain works really better when I train myself speed reading and mind mapping. I feel like my brain is clearer, my mind is clearer. So if it's clearer to think, it's clearer to write, and I think that's some sort of very positive emulating circle when you work with all those blocks.
Definitely, and you can be much more productive if you've got a mind map plan of what you're doing. You're then never lost because you've always got things in context.
Yeah, so that's why we are really excited to organize this event on the 4th of October. And just to conclude this interview, do you have a message or an advice for the French contestant that will participate to the championship of the 4th of October?
Well, the main piece of advice is compete. If you're frightened, you think, "Oh, I'm not going to be good enough," "Oh, I've only just started learning," I don't think I can compete. I don't want to shame myself up. I'm afraid of that. Take all of that courage and compete, because you learn so much. You really learn a lot by competing, not only from your own performance of seeing how you can do under time pressure, but also meeting really inspiring people who are competing alongside you. So it's a really good community. It's a really good opportunity to definitely compete, even if you're just starting out. So have courage, take the opportunity, and compete in the championships.
Great. Thank you for very much. I totally agree with this message. So I can't wait to see you on the 4th of October in Paris.
Okay, look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye.